Hello humans. Hello humans. Okay, today is December 6th. Yet another one of these. This is about the leaky woo. We've had all of these videos recently because of the events that are occurring and the rapidity with which they're occurring. So don't bother sending me emails saying, you know, what video did you discuss yada 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 in? Because I'm not going to remember. I have no interest in remembering. I have no interest in cataloging, and the woo doesn't work that way. This is not a digital searchable library that way. The woo is about discovery, and so you got to go discover. So I can't help you. I'm not interested in trying. I don't do that sort of thing. So today is about leaky woo, and this is the first of the serious initiation discussions. And we'll go on with the initiation for some time, extracting this information out of the woo, so that hopefully ahead of events, so that you'll have some perspective on what's going on in a broader scale as events unfold tomorrow, the next day, next week, and next year. Because it's all predictable, it's all interrelated, it's all part and parcel of where we're at. So this is entitled Leaky Woo, and it's actually going to lead in an involved way around to some interesting concepts. But the title comes from my experience with the mantids in hyperspace. And so hyperspace is beyond chaotic. It is chaos applied to chaos and elevated with chaos. And it is not possible to ascertain a broad view in hyperspace because there's so much going on, there's so much activity, and it's involving lots of your consciousness, and your consciousness is flooding in with everybody else's consciousness. You have no ability to say stop and look in a broad sense as what's going on. During the process, all you can do is be involved in the process. So universe shows you what you're meant to see in hyperspace. Consciousness directs what your individuated consciousness and memory should accept and retain. All right, it's basically universe is describing ahead of you what you should see. So it's not a random experience. All right, you have to understand that part of it. You won't recognize that part of it until years later. A lot of stuff you'll remember years later. Just the nature of psychedelic as a technology. So I was meant to see, I was meant to interact with the mantids. The very first thing that happened to me was that I popped into a discrete area of hyperspace, and I basically freaked out because it was sort of like a room in some respects. And I didn't expect anything at all like that based on how I'd arrived there. And I interacted with this being that looked like sort of an ant, sort of a mantid. I called it a mantid because it didn't walk around like an ant. It walked around sort of upright. It carried itself upright like a mantid will. And within this room structure, I came to learn, you learn things in hyperspace by way of universe impressing that information on you. And again, you have no control over those impressions that you're going to be subjected to. The only control you have on them is what you accept and how you accept it, the attitudes about it, and so on. You have control over that. So I could not now tell you what was in the corner of that room, even though I have a very vivid memory of what was in the middle of it. And that was because, or seemed to be the middle. I have no way of knowing the dimensions of the room because dimensions don't exist in hyperspace. So it's kind of a weird concept. But universe directed that I should understand what was in the middle of that room, which was this being, this alien to me, insectoid, based on insect being, or was presenting itself that way. You can't assume that they're actually that way in reality, right? But nonetheless, I was intended to understand that the mantid existed as a physical structure. as a being that walked around on its planet and stuff, but it could also go to hyperspace as I had, but without the need for psychedelics, because of the nature of it being an insect, and how that insect body relates to reality is different from ours. And so its form of consciousness could journey to hyperspace by doing things within its own body, not requiring psychedelics, insofar as I was able to determine. The point of that, one of the points of my interaction with that mantid was that I should understand how information is transferred in hyperspace, at least at that level. So I discovered that I could extract information like facts and images and stuff from this one little part of the mantid's consciousness that was in that room, as it attempted to extract information from me. And being a paranoid, I was like really freaked, and I instinctively did something that resulted in my hardening my consciousness, and that freaked out the bug. It did not expect that. It did not expect that I would have that ability. And it was like, whoa, because it was starting to reach into my mind, and I shut my mind tight on it and pushed it out. And then so I pop in there to its laboratory, that's what it was, and a consciousness and biological laboratory, and it sees me and is repelled by me, like instinctively, like within the chitinous fiber of its being, it's repelled by my presence there. And so it uses its mind to push me out. And I had ingested a lot of mescaline at that time. That was mescaline. And I got full of myself in response, in the sense that, well, you can't do that to me, you're just a bug. And so I jumped right back there. I deliberately attempted to go right back there after it had thrown me out, and I popped in there, and it was basically, I'm gonna stay here, you fucker. And so I did, and I observed for some period of time, to be determined, unknown, never be able to find out. And I learned things, okay? So I learned that the bugs don't like us, but I also learned how information is transferred between ourselves and that being at a telepathic level, which is not the case between hominids in hyperspace, because I met hominids and other beings, and it's not the case between hominids and other beings in hyperspace. The only telepathic communication is available interacting with the bug or some of its minions. And the machine elves. You get a slight telepathic communication with the machine elves. Anyway, so the bug does not like humans. It wasn't me personally. It wasn't annoyed that I personally showed up there, and it would have been happy to see somebody else. It does not have emotions as we would understand them. Doesn't have the capacity, literally does not have the capacity to feel emotions in its body, or its consciousness. The most it can get is sort of a mild annoyance or a placid sort of satisfaction. So not much of a reality it lives in. They're very long lives, so this strikes me as some form of hell. But anyway, so there's telepathy between humans and these beings, and they can extract information from you, but you can block them if you try, if you have this instinctive reaction. And they get pissed, and then you become hard, and they can push you and deal with you. Okay, but they're not all powerful. They're very old and they know shit, but they actually have less. They have a lot of knowledge, which allows them to have a lot of technology relative to hyperspace, but they don't have a lot of innate power in hyperspace the way that hominids do, because of our emotional base in the vagus nervous system. Okay, that's where we get the power from. Our power in all of reality is from the vagus nervous system. That provides us the emotional energy to go and conquer worlds, that sort of thing. Okay, so the bug is repelled. One of the facets that repels the bug is the fact that humans are leaky relative to psychic stuff, okay? And it's slightly larger than that. We're leaky relative to our karma. And so this accounts for this leakiness accounts for our for the bug's ability to take thoughts from us and put thoughts in us, that our psyche is somewhat Swiss cheese-like. We're natively open, leaking out ki, leaking out thoughts all the time. Okay, so a lot of beings don't live that way. And so we're sort of like pollution, psychic pollution in the bug's mind. And we're just like a little emitter, you know, and so when we show up, we're just emitting psychic pollution that disturbs the bugs. And so they don't like us around. They would prefer that there be a lot less of us. Zero would be their preference. They actually know they'll never achieve that, so that's curious. But in any event, though, so I find on Earth, manifesting here, many of the manifestations of the bugs' attitudes versus humans. And so I've analyzed this and analyzed this and analyzed this for years and years and years, for decades, ever since the 70s when I was exploring hyperspace, and late 60s when I was exploring hyperspace. And so I've thought about this, right? And I've searched, I've researched, you know, spent money, spent hours in libraries, haunted through libraries, looking for particular kinds of information, finding a little trail here, leading through, and so on. And so I find that, and so I've connected myself over the course of years to many interesting people about this. And I've stumbled on interesting human information in tracking down information about the nature of our reality and the nature of the bug's interaction with humanity. Because it's interacting with us. One of the space alien guys I met there, Mr. Flathead, this hominid who was quite nice, I liked him a lot. He had a very flat head. You project how you are there. I was sort of able to project, you know, a crude form of this body in hyperspace, so that you got an idea of how I looked. But anyway, I learned a lot from him about the bug and the nature of the bug's attack on hominids throughout all of galaxies, okay, throughout all of consciousness. And we are truly at war with the bug. So my war is against the space alien insectoid reptiles that are fucking with consciousness here on Earth. They are warring with us. They may not be here physically. They might be down in Antarctica. Who knows? Maybe that's why everybody's going down to Antarctica, to interact with the bug or one of its physical minions. You know, their gods, you know. But it may not be here physically, and it could still fuck with us through its minions that it could send here in spaceships, the little grays, these kind of things, right? And it could cause things to occur here. And the bugs are very, very, very long-lived, so they might live 100,000 years for all I know. I have no way of knowing, but I do know that they think in terms of 1,000-year increments in terms of their plans, and so we might be in the, you know, the sixth phase of a 10,000-year plan that they're affecting humans here. We seem to be at a culmination point, and that's why this initiation video and the other ones that will follow, because of what's coming at us, right? And this initiation is an initiation of a thought, an initiation of a bunch of concepts that relate to that thought, and how we should behave relative to the thought and the concepts. So we've got to go way deep, though. All right, so this is one of those things where this is not simple. And you have to understand that part of initiation is symbolism. And symbolism is going to be the downfall of the cabal, the downfall of the bug, because the bug speaks in symbols. It reacts, or it causes us to react very deeply, because it can pull symbols out, these very meaningful archetypical symbols out of our mentition, and use them against us. There's much to understand about the nature of the enemy we face on the other side of the cabal, on the other side of the globalists. But we should define who we are before we start entering into who they are, and how we should be interacting, and how we are interacting. Okay, so it's necessary that we think about being human, and So anybody here that might be watching that thinks they're, you know, a walk-in Pleiadian to a human body, or they think they're reincarnated extraterrestrial or any of that. You got to get rid of those thoughts, okay? You need to disabuse yourself of those thoughts relative to this experience in this life, because they are meaningless. You can have them, you can put great emotional intent to them, but they're absolutely meaningless in the structure of what's going to be happening over these next 100 years maybe, or 200 or 400, I don't know, because we're going to be coming into, we're in the apocalypse, all right? We're in the apocalypse means basically the revealing. That which was hidden is revealed. And so we are at the point of the apocalypse right now, and we are in it. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that's revealed, and things that we had, illusions that we had, delusions that we had, are going to hamper us as we go forward. And so many people will struggle trying to get this information and will not accept it and go on, and that's fine. That's just the way the nature of the leaks are going to go relative to our karma, okay? We leak psychic impressions. We leak our psychic energy constantly. Part of this psychic energy is our interaction with karma. And so some people will have a karmic burden that they're carrying now. They'll be interacting with their karma from previous lives, and they will not accept this information, and some may become, abusive, whatever. They're going to have different reactions to it. But what I'm going to tell you is not from hyperspace information, right? I got pointed there as a result, I got pointed to this information as a result of my experiences within hyperspace, and I've been able to track down this information because humans have been interacting with hyperspace and the bug for many, many, many thousands of years. We don't know how many thousands of years. Could be 40, 50, who knows. It's not really pertinent. The numbers are not pertinent. The bugs like numbers, so bear that in mind. Anybody that gets really hung up on a number, on a numeric, is having a particular part of their brain tweaked by that numeric. They feel a particular way when they contemplate numbers. You will find some people like this in engineering fields. You'll find many people like this in mathematics, where they're mathematicians, where they feel a particular way in their body, in their mentation, when they contemplate and think about numbers. This is the sort of, they're using the math part of their brain. There's not a discrete section there like there is with linguistics. But we can say that there's the two areas that basically will light up when they think about the math, and it will make them feel a particular way. All right, so numerics, but that numeric part of your brain is one of the ones that is more easily accessed by the bug when they try and come on in, when they try and, that's one of the ways that they get in and deal with us, is because numbers are very key symbols. And so the numeric part of the brain is also keyed to the symbolic processing part of the brain. Now, all of this is related to our karma, and our karma is related to, and karma is not what you think. Karma is not, as you've been presented on TV, the idea that if you do something bad, it's going to come and bite you in the ass a little bit later. That's action and consequence, okay? And that's a fairly complex subject on its own, but it's not karma. We need to understand the nature of ourselves as humans, and we need to understand the nature of karma and how it interacts with ourselves as well as the space aliens. Now, I'm going to bring this up, and we may get a chance to go back to it here, but Asclepius, okay, a book, The Perfect Discourses, or Discourse of Hermes Trismegistus. Okay, we'll call him Hermes. All right, so there's this fellow. This was from the, all right. So we don't know for sure where, when Hermes lived. We think we've got it narrowed down. All right, this guy named, that we'll call Hermes, which is a Greek sounding name, was actually an Egyptian. He lived in the region of the Nile. This guy was atypically a prophet as well as a philosopher and a mathematician and all of that kind of shit, right? He was a very erudite, very well thought scholar in his time. He wrote 2 books. In both cases, the books were lost. Okay, it's thought that he lived about the time of Moses, all right, and that he was a contemporary because of the way that he talks about the Israelites and the prophecies and shit. Okay, so it's thought. All right, so this guy wrote 2 books and they were lost. They were written in Egyptian. He also wrote them in Greek. The Greek originals have been lost through all history, lost since 300 AD, which was when we know that the books went lost because there was another book written at that time that referenced them and the fact that they had been lost in that century, that they were unrecoverable and stuff, okay? So this gets really complex. But at that time, before they were lost, there were translations made from the Greek to Latin. So we had Latin copies of it. But the Greek originals were lost. There is transliteration that goes on from Greek letters to Roman letters, so frequently shit gets lost in the translation as well. But these were fairly decently translated into Latin, and this book is a description of this guy's thinking, his philosophy, that he gave in the form of these conversations. Now, this guy's goal in his life was to have a perfect conversation. And in a perfect conversation, there could only be the person that's having the conversation and 4 listeners, no more than 4 listeners, no more than 4 people in there interacting and so on. So he was a real secrecy buff. He had discourses frequently. He conducted schools, but would never have more than 4 students at a time. So anything that this guy would have promulgated would never become a big cult just because you didn't have enough personality in there to get the people to grow and grow and grow. And it's easy to understand why his material got lost, especially since you understand that he was discussing. Now, this book here is a lot of prophecy in it. It's has stuff about the Israelites, about our current times even, because he was saying he didn't know when it would be, but it might be a couple of millennia away from his time that these things would occur as the nature of time flowed. And he used a lot of analogies relative to the River Nile and so on. And he discusses our current time now, when certain things are happening in our world. So it's very easy to see some of his prophecies in current events, even though he does not get into dates or that sort of thing, or personalities. But he got deep into the nature of what it is to be human in his private discourses, which, as far as we know, were never written down. If they were, no one ever heard of them, and so on, right? Well, that's kind of not really the case. So Hermes, all right, so as I've done all of this research, I've come across and connected with a lot of interesting people, some interesting linguists and so on. And so I've connected with a couple of people, 3 actually, few, so 3 is a few. And so I've connected with these few people, and these guys have actually been into the Vatican repository of knowledge and records, the catacombs I call them, because it's all underground. And we're talking very sophisticated, you got to put on white Tyvek suits and wear special gloves and have masks so you don't respirate out on these ancient documents and shit. And it's all humidity controlled, and you go through airlocks, serious fucking shit to preserve this. And I've been told that the Hermes volumes, lost Hermes volumes in Greek, are owned by the Vatican. I've been told, and I have no way to confirm this, and the person that told me this notes that this through an annotation on a card listing current contents in a particular room. Not that he'd ever examined or read any of it, okay, because he was not a Greek scholar. And so all of this stuff was in Greek. He'd gone into the Greek room in order to fetch a reference for his work in Latin. because the book he was working on in Latin at that time, he wanted to see the original in Greek to see that the transliteration was the same, which it was not. He found several words, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but he told me that he'd been looking for that particular volume he took out of the Greek area and discovered that, oh yeah, these Hermes things, and he was going to go back, but he never got a chance to. It's tightly controlled as to who accesses and when. But so theoretically, or at least I've been informed, the Hermes volumes are indeed still in existence. So very interesting. They're very interesting because Hermes in Egypt was discussing information that he knew originated in India from the previous civilization. So Hermes in 300 AD was convinced that our current civilization that has existed since 13,700 years ago, 11,000 BC basically, this civilization, Hermes is convinced, is the fourth era of men on this planet, and the fourth giant civilization emerging. And he's also convinced we were a remnant. He's also convinced that Atlantis was real, all the spawn of Atlantis. Some of us, not all of us, but there are things that happen to humanity. Hermes is convinced of that. He's also convinced we're in this cosmic war, and that it's been ongoing all of his life and all the lives of all the people that preceded him, and so on and so on. And Hermes thought about the nature of humans and got into stuff that was told to him by travelers, by sophisticated travelers. That's how he referred to them. Sophisticated travelers with whom he had a close to perfect discourse. And he was the listener. So basically, it was a good lecture, is in his terms, right? And so they told him about a bunch of stuff in India, Sanskrit, and so on, and they read to him from a book with a script he couldn't read. And he understood some of this stuff in the nature of karma, and then it was inculcated into his thinking as he went forward and gave these discourses that we assume from this and the other volume about his instruction. He's very interesting to read just about the prophecy, if you're into that kind of stuff. It's a couple of pages, so it's not going to take you very long. But the main point to bring him up is that this stuff has been ongoing. I'm not unique thinking about these. Got weird-ass people in strange headgear thinking about this stuff for centuries. And he was not the first, of course, right? Anyway, so here is 27 minutes into this, so this might be a whole bunch of these. Okay, so here is the drawing part, right? And so we're going to look down on some people. So we're going to see three ovals representing people's heads, and we'll work out from there. And so these are our humans. And so these humans are standing around talking to each other, right? And so these humans, all three of them right here, are focused among themselves. Basically, their energy is all focused in this way. Their attention, let me put it that way, their attention is all focused in that way. All right, so, we live in a condensate reality. We live in a reality where matter is condensed from energy. We're not going to go into the ether of it, all of that kind of stuff. That's for some other time. You can explore that on your own and think about it. But we live in this condensate reality where energy is condensate. You can't extract energy from matter. It just does this matter. So E equal mc squared is 100% wrong. A reversal of the actual facts of the matter. Now, a fact is that our bodies are not limited to what we can materially access through pressure and through our senses and so on. So I have an energy body. And so everybody has these energy bodies. These energy bodies are multiplicitous, okay? You have many of them. And these energy bodies are radiating energy that can be picked up in the electromagnetic spectrum These bodies our bodies are radiating energy that is life force, that is to say spirit, animating matter, making things move. These energy bodies are sequential, touching, contiguous, interpenetrating, and a continuum, but can also be seen, perceived as discrete, and contain certain aspects and attributes in and of themselves, right? And so each of our energy bodies has a particular range of activity out in the materium, here, right? And each of our energy bodies would have a particular frequency. And so, let me just do it this way. And so, the frequency of the blue energy body is different from the frequency of the orange energy body, and it just goes on and on. And we have energy bodies that the military is actively working with, right? They're trying to manipulate your energy body such that the energy bodies don't interpenetrate the matter, okay? And I'll explain that in a second. But the military, all militaries around the planet that are sophisticated, so probably not the Costa Rican military, but that kind of thing. But the U.S. military, the French, to a certain extent, I'm sure, that sort of thing. They're all working with energy bodies, energy weapons. They would love to have a ray gun that would zap a particular energy body and have you fall over like you'd been tased, all right? That's where they think they can go with this, weaponizing the understanding of our energy bodies. And so these are the cores, these are our corpus, all right, our physical bodies, and all of these are our radiative energy bodies. Now you'll note something here. These energy bodies radiate out from us. They behave to some extent in the approximate 1/4 of the distance squared relationship and drop off of energy. So the blue energy body is tighter and more cohesive than the orange, and then out to the purple, etc. I'm just drawing these in colors that are randomly selected here. It's not meaningful to auras at this way in anything. This is just a random using these colors for illustration. And I needed a dark color on the outer edge here, and I'll show you why. Let me put this one here too. Okay, let me get this guy his. So we understand, everybody thinks they know what karma is, and they basically all understand karma as a following on results from and consequences from action. And in fact, the word karma in Sanskrit is action, okay? And to a certain extent, this is true that there is this results aspect, this consequence aspect, but that's not really the point we're discussing today. We're going to discuss the actual mechanistic part of it, all right? And so karma is, let me write it here. So karma is a plural, all right? And it's a plural word for karmans, for a karman. So it's many karmans, all right? And so a karman is a physical thing within the energy bodies, all right? It is a perceptible, discrete energy unit within our condensate energy universe. These karman are mechanistic to universe. They do things in universe. They're part of how universe makes itself work, including all of our actions. And we're part of universe. We swim in universe. We exist in universe. If it wants to motivate us, it does things, and it tags us, so to speak, with karman after we've caused, after an action, in order that it may have a, so to speak, in its database, a quick finder, a pointer to that action relative to our lives. So you can think of a karman as basically being a unique identifier for a particular aspect of your life interacting with some other energy. And that's fundamentally what they are. That's how universe, in my opinion and the opinion of others, these kind of people, Also Harold Percival, Thinking in Destiny, Patanjali, Yoga Sutras, all of these kind of books will reference this, that Karman is an existent thing, even though we can't see it. There are people that develop visual abilities to be able to see auras who can indeed see karma, individual karma, right? But we know that karma exists for a bunch of different reasons. I won't go into the details of that. You can find vast quantities of information about it if you want to go and hunt it. But what I want to go into is how this affects the nature of us as leaky beings and how we interact with the bug and why we're having this war at the moment, or one of the reasons we're having this war at the moment, and how we can do things in this war and what will be done and what is necessary to be done in the future in order that we might win this war, and how simple it will be to win this war once we become adult and start discussing things. So, okay, so the prelude there done, let's discuss the individual Karman. And so what happens is that these three humans, these three core body humans, are having a conversation. In that conversation, energy is being exchanged through words, and that's thoughts being exchanged through words. And so we have this energy exchange, which actually causes an excitation within universe and within consciousness. Thus, we get to the idea of a perfect discourse, all right? Because a perfect discourse would be one that did not attract Karman, all right? A Karman, and we'll just think of them as these little square guys. A little Karman. These Karman are like, we could think of them as floating around in universe, just sitting there. All right, they're not alive or anything like that. It's an energy reaction. It is a reaction to the fact that all of our energy is getting excited and energized by our interaction with some other human. And so universe wants to keep track of this because all of universe is existent, that it may determine what will happen. All right, that gets into just a huge number of these things, videos. I mean, just to discuss that. But universe's point is to find out what will happen. So there are not multiverses in the sense that every decision you make doesn't create another universe and you don't have all these weird-ass timelines and shit. That's antithetical to the actual idea of what universe wants to find out. And that is, universe basically wants to know if this seed of action starts, what actions follow, what karman exists, what responses and results and circumstances and coincidences and consequences erupt from this action. And in universe's method for tracking all of this and storing this information in the what are known as the Akashic records, but it doesn't matter, but what you call them, but the universal record of all of this, the memory, universe's memory, so to speak, of everything that happens is done through these little karman. And so the more energetic you are, the more active you are out in universe, the more energy you expel, the more karman you attract, because these guys are attracted to this energy flow that happens here. And so these guys are like dust being sucked up in the vacuum that as we breathe in to talk to each other, right? They're like psychic elements that are just out there, and they are attracted to this interaction of energy. And that interaction of energy, of course, is things being done, thoughts being had, decisions being made, discoveries being understood. Okay, these are consequences. These are things that are manifesting. Manifestation is what motivates the karman. As I say, the more active you are, the more you're going to intend, more possibility of bringing karma on you. And we can get into, if you want to understand how karman work, you're going to have to really explore what is nominally known as the Jain religion, because they've done more work on it than anybody else, much more so than the Hindus. Okay, these guys are analytical. A lot of them are German, so they're just methodical about it, and that gets us into the very next part of all of this. Okay, we can see that these three individuals here will have since they're all having a conversation, it could be a happy conversation, it could be unhappy, it doesn't matter. But because they're having this conversation, they're going to have energy between them. They're going to attract karmans. Now, bear in mind, it's not one or two, it's bazillions. You're swimming in bazillions of these little markers in the energy field. Every single bit of energy you expel attracts these buggers. And they glom onto you. They glom onto the appropriate energy body as a marker. And you carry the weight of that karma. And when you die, your soul, one of the things it does is it cleans the database for your next life. It burns off all the karma you got there so that you can reconcile it. It puts all this information you've learned into intuition so that you can recycle. And so these karman attach. So all of our spheres here, you have to understand, are basically just covered with these little karman everywhere, all around on all of our energy spheres, accumulating stuff over our lives, right? The more you do, the more of these karman you've got on you. And so if we could see karman, you could see who is an old soul, so to speak, right? When you translate into the next life, you do not bring these with you. Okay, you bring intuition, which is what you learned from these particular points in your life interacting with that other energy that was meaningful that you might take into the next life. But it is necessary that your next life begin karman free so that all of these little markers can appropriately tag you for this life. Okay, we've misinterpreted them, basically. We misinterpret karma in a retribution kind of a style. And we're also inculcated, we're trained to do that. This is the whole point. We've been trained in our appreciation and understanding of karma, universe, and everything has been warped by the cabal and the bug on the other side of the cabal. So now, all right, so in the very near future here, we're going to be going to physical war, the people of the planet against the central banks. There will be a tendency there that that warfare go kinetic, but it need not. We don't have to go shoot bankers or anything like that. All we have to do is stand up and say, we see, we understand. We understand, and we won't comply. We just won't involve ourselves in that. And I'll get into that maybe in the next video. Maybe we can do it in here. All right, so let's understand a few things here, okay? I'm going to use a different color just so that it'll be clear. Our interaction with karma is not individuated. So because this conversation is occurring in universe, this conversation itself, these three people, that forms a discrete entity within the history of universe. These three people in this discourse, in this perfect conversation, standing there, interacting with each other. And so this conversation itself is tagged with its own karma. And so the nature of that conversation is tagged by universe for retrieval, and interacting with each of the individuals there, they get part of their intuition out of this collective karma that they share among the three of them. Make sense? So you don't, when you go into your metempsychoses, when your body dies and you go into your metempsychoses and your soul burns off all of the karman, you have karman from every interaction you've had with all these other people. And so you get to take different things from each of these interactions that you will inculcate and get melted into your single thick drop of intuition that you take from one life to the next. This is the idea of collective karma at a very small level. Now, of course, you can see that you have collective karma between man and a wife, right? Between brother and brother, brother and sister, mother or wife and husband, mother and daughter, mother and son, yada, 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 yada. You see the number of kinds of karma, collective karma you will have as you go through life. There's just vast numbers. You will never be able to keep track of them. Thus, we have karma to tell you about all the stuff that you've done when you're out of this life into the next life, right? Or in the metempsychoses. You will use the karma to think about, so to speak, integrate and learn from, revisit those particular interactions. So karma is not a bad thing at all. It is a necessary part of the universe in a mechanistic sense. Now, you can also see that as an extension that collective karma begins with your energy, but the more people you interact with, you have more karmic interactions, you have more karma attaching to all these different energy bodies that at some point will be reconciled. Now, some of these energy events are not part of your energy body. They're just a discrete event between these three people that is tagged on its own. But each one of these karmans will have another karman on your energy body that can be used to find this particular event that you interacted with. Thus, it's basically not a good thing to be fucking with your energy bodies, which is one of the reasons I say med beds, people zapping you with electricity. No, you don't want to be doing shit like that, okay? You got to be very careful about these things. Anyway, so we have collective karma, we have many different kinds of karma, all right? This is some of the things you learn from the Jane, is that karma is not, they're all a single discrete unit, but they attach for different reasons. So we have karma that every karma attaches for an action and a shared value, an interaction between you and some aspect of your universe. Now, some of your karma is just going to be about your own thoughts, right? Sometimes just your own thoughts just sitting there are going to be so energetic that they're going to trigger up a karma to come and attach to you about that particular event. But we have karman that are attaching to us because of characteristics, okay? So some karman are going to be, they don't really react this way, I'm just applying an analogy. Some karman will be thought of easily as being attracted by a specific type of energy. It's not really that way. It's not like they have a taste for it or anything, right? But we just find that we have karman that are here to us collectively by things that are in the nature of our bodies. So all of our bodies we're looking straight down on a human, we have all of these energy bodies that we share, as I say, when we get interacting with other people, right? But these energy bodies have their own characteristics. My energy bodies are, in a sense, generally like every other human's energy bodies. But in another sense, they are specifically unlike everybody else's energy bodies at various different characteristics. Okay, so this is where it gets tricky and sort of difficult to understand. But the physical characteristics that we manifest in this universe, we do so as a result of the soul's describing our body so that the universe can remake it 22 trillion times a second. When it remakes it, it remakes all of those pointers and all of our energy bodies such that we can track this the karman through time. When it does the energy bodies, when our energy bodies are recreated 22 trillion times a second, there are like default characteristics that are extended out from the core manifestation of our condensate, from our actual physical body being a condensate, which is a basically it's energy consciousness put through a filter so that you would see this form, so that you could hit me or I could hit you, right? So that it's physical. All right, obviously I don't look like anybody else really, but I share characteristics with other people. Those shared characteristics have a common collective karman, all right? And so we have two humans here, and we will say for the moment that these two humans are alike in many, many ways. And so these two humans here have a common characteristic karman attractant in a identity aspect. All right, so it's the aspects. So these two guys, these are two male humans. So they have a karman that is attracted, just that they have a collective karma that they have to go through that is impressed on them just because they're male. And so the male humans experience reality different than females. This is obvious. And so each individual experiences reality different than every other human. But collectively, we will all experience reality to some degree the same. So if a meteor comes down and smacks Earth and blows it all up, then we have a giant collective karma for all humans as we all die that instant in this meteor explosion, all right? And so that would be a form of a collective karma that affected all of humanity. Another form of collective karma that affects all of humanity right now, whether there's a meteor or anything like that, is the fact that we're human, that we're bipedal, that we have all the digits and this kind of stuff. And examine the idea that everybody that is disabled from that template has a different kind of a karma. They experience reality in a different way and will attract and have different energies and will attract different karma to their actual manifestation of consequences from the results of their actions. So we see that there is karma that can be separated or differentiated by characteristics. So every bald guy is going to experience reality different from those people with hair. So every bald male or bald female is going to get cold on the top of the head when people with hair do not, and that has potential for creating a karmic expression that attracts karmans to my energy body. If I'm participating in that coldness and I'm getting all, and I'm putting energy into it, I will attract karmans to the fact that I'm cold, right? There won't be big karmans, there won't be a big mass of them, and it's not a highly energetic thing, but you see the issue, right? So you will share karma with everybody that has similar characteristics to you. This karma that you share is a baseline kind of a thing. It's not an active karma, it's not a consequence karma. So if you go and you smack somebody in the nose unbidden, you're just a bastard, you see somebody out in the street and you smack them in the nose just for the hell of it, you will get a reaction to that energy. You'll have put out so much energy in such a instant burst, and the other party that you're smacking, this person that is unaware, and you just hit them, you just sucker punch them in the face, that party will have to use their own karma to come up with their own actions to come up as a reaction, and they will generate their own form of karma as a result of that interaction. So when one person smacks another one, in any way, shape, or form, there is a differentiation to the amount of karma attached to that energy. So if it's a sucker punch and it's a great, huge, out of nowhere kind of thing, you might get an equal and opposite reaction in terms of that person might get up and they might shoot you, right? Or they might hit you with something. So you might get much more energy coming back at you. Or they may be of a mind that they get up and they sue you, or that they throw you in jail. And so you have years of retribution for that violent act. As a result, right? You have years of consequence for that violent act. And it will have a different amount of karma attached. Now, so we see that our individual karma, or our individual actions, our individual responses, which to a certain extent are dictated by how we've reacted in the past and how we've been trained to react, will accrue karma as we go on. And so we'll find that the characteristics are this like baseline karma that just build up because we happen to be both bald, right? Or both male, or both human, that kind of thing. And we'll build up all of these karma as a result of that, but it's basically just the initial state of the database of our lives going forward. And so you'll get a lot of this kind of karma, most of it in fact, when you're born. So because you got to tag this guy. Oh, okay, this guy's a male, right? Not an adult male, but it's a male. And so you get tagged with a white male, so on. But at the time I was born, I had hair. So at that point, I didn't have any of the karma or the energy attractors that could come from being bald. So we see also that you age into this. The shit changes as you go along. Your karma changes as you grow and enlarge, and all the suffering and the wounds and everything. All of that stuff attracts more karma, and it alters you, and you react differently. You grow. You discover what to do and what not to do. and you take the baseline karmas that you're given, and those are inculcated and entrained into the energy that you put out that attracts the greater karma from your actions. So your baseline karma, to a great extent, will trigger the kind of karma that you collect in this life, the actions that you put out and so on, because of the baseline. So I'll never, ever, ever get any karma in this life from giving birth to a child, because I'm not a pregnant person. I'm not an adult woman that could get pregnant, right? And so I'll never have any karma relating to that. So there's whole things that are excluded based on your life, this particular life, from your potential for getting memories, karma, interaction, energy, and that kind of stuff as a result of these characteristics. Now, characteristics can go to phenotypes. Characteristics can obviously are individual, all right? And we usually just think of karma at this individual level. But we can also have karma get at us from phenotypes. So ain't anything I can do about it. I'm sharing the karma of people with white skin. And so at the moment, there's this purge against white people on all across the globe. And so there's sort of, actions that are going to get karma to me because I'm white. I'm going to have interactions with people that are pissed at me because I'm white, because they've been trained to be pissed at me because I'm white. And so I know this, that they're trained, that it's not necessarily anything that is inherent in them, and that what they've been told is all bullshit. And I understand this, but that does not alter the fact that I will have these interactions with these people because of the fact that I'm white. So I'm getting karma because I'm white, right? And it was necessary that I be here at this time, that I be white. Universe stuck me here, that all this shit should occur. All right, so getting on with this, we have the phenotypes, which of course would include skin color, hair color, eye color, all of the differentiating things that go to separating one human from another, all relating to the body. We also have mind characteristics that separate us. So that people that think alike will have share a common karmic understanding, so to speak, a common energy output that draws karma that are the same to both of those people, because they share this particular thought. So we have all of these characteristics that will affect the amount of karma that we actually get in our energy bodies, and that it goes from the individual level all the way out through groups, planetary, and so on, right? And so just we share a collective a destiny, if you will, with everything in our solar system. If our sun is to smack into another sun and it destroys all the planets in the solar system, then all life in our solar system shared that collective moment that we were all destroyed. And we shared that collective destiny, therefore we're going to have similar attractant patterns, and will be tagged and databased, so to speak, with those similar actions relative to that particular event. Okay, so we also have karma that is more ephemeral. Okay, so we have karma that just because I think a particular way, I have a karmic default. All right, so I'm linguistically bent. And so, as with other linguists, I find that I'm simpatico, right? And you pay attention to my words here. And so we share a commonality there, a common destiny that will attract karma to those same kind of actions, because we all of the linguists like to mess with words, just as all the mathematicians like to mess with numbers, and they feel a particular way about numbers. People with the linguistic tweaks in their brain, or linguistic center, you feel a particular way when that's activating. And so that draws a particular kind of energy to you. But this actually, so that's at a mind level. We also have thought. So you can have a thought. I can have a thought about mathematics and not be a mathematician. I can have a thought about math and not have the emotional response to a number the way that a mathematician might have an emotional response to a number or a concept about numbers. Nonetheless, even as a non-mathematician, I can think about numbers, and I will thus share a common destiny, a common relationship, and thus attract the same kind of energies, the same kind of karman tags as people that are mathematicians, if the level of thought I have rises to the same level of thought that they have. And even if it doesn't, I'll still attract some level of karman to that action when I think about the math. So I might, even a non-mathematician, I might have an insight that yields a particular formula or something like this, and so I would attract sort of mathematic karman, right? It's not really that way. They don't really feed on math. They're not differentiating between math and any other science or anything like that. But it is because I'm thinking in that particular way and putting out that energy that I will get that karmic attraction. This is all necessary to understand because the bug, the space aliens and the cabal that are ruling, the globalists that are ruling us now, I think that the globalists are mind controlled and that they're controlled by these space aliens, and that they certainly don't understand what they're doing. They're clever but stupid. They do stupid shit all the time. They don't really grasp what's going on. They don't have a real vision, and they're probably recoverable as people, but they've really messed up humanity because they've been, all our rulers have been taken over by these space aliens and are doing weird shit. And we get into these situations here. And in my opinion, what has happened, my conclusion is that, okay, so let me back up. The reason that we leak psychic impression is because of the nature of our energy bodies, because of the nature of our core, because we are internal skeleton creatures with a vagus nervous system, and that our bodies are not in any way enclosed in screening material, so to speak, that would keep the psychic impressions in. In fact, our skulls are our antenna. Our brain is a microcrystals and an emulsified oil, which is a very, very, very good antenna. And then the bone in our skulls is designed to transmit energy through it. It is designed to accept and transmit energy. By universe, it's provided for us, right? It has discrete little pockets. It has resonating chambers in the actual bone itself. When you saw through the skull, it's not like a hard, solid matter. There's voids and little tiny pockets in all of our bones. These are necessary and useful. In the skull, the top half of the skull, the area that's involved with the sutures that eventually seal up as the skull finally grows to the appropriate size, that part of our brain is actually intended to broadcast out our energy and our information. So the bug doesn't like this. The bug's the other way. The bug has a hard chitness outside. It does not have a vagus nervous system to deal with psychic information at all. The psychic information causes it discomfort. It pollutes its thinking, and we're an irritant to it. The psychic leaks that we have, in my conclusion and many other people's conclusion, come from the karma system. The fact that we attract these karma, and they're not static little things, okay? They are energy, they're energetically active, and so the bug, for instance, has no problem with a kid in a basement munching on Cheetos, munching on a bad diet, depressing his body with a bad diet, and playing video games, which are this circuitous aspect. The energy of the video game is very interesting in terms of how it affects humans and its interaction with karma. And the bugs have no problem if all of us were to just go into basements and play video games all day. We would not be leaking out the crap that we're leaking out. Our leaks come from our interaction with other humans out and about in this stuff. When we interact through these machines, the bug doesn't have any problem because it does not get that energy bounce and spread and magnification that happens when we're together. You know this if you've ever been to a large concert. 30,000 people, 50,000 people at a Rolling Stone concert, that kind of thing. You feel that fucking energy psychically, even if you're not able to articulate it and everything, even if you think it's just the beat of the drums or something getting into you, it's the wave of the psychic energy that's everybody interacting with the music and everybody else. And these kind of events are not anything the bug wants to have happen. It does not like this kind of shit at all. It does use those events, okay? Thus, the many deaths in the death cult that are triggered by such events, like most recently at this concert with the rapper guy down south somewhere, where everybody was crushed, right? A lot of that was psychic energy body death by resonance. It's all energy. If you know how to manipulate it, you can get resonance out of it and so on. Okay, so the bug's problem with us, in my conclusion, had it take over our globalists and have the globalists trying to impress the bug's mentality on humans, which isn't going to happen. We can't live that way. We will rebel. We are rebelling now. The globalists have finally come on out. They don't even know why they're doing it now. They don't understand really what motivates them at all. The war erupts when enough of the human population wises up to the illusion that has been painted over our understanding of reality by the globalists throughout all of our education. So when you wake up and understand that they have lied to you, and you start going out and getting information, when you no longer believe the mainstream media, when you understand that you are at war, the minute you understand that, you start thinking, well, fuck, is this a war? From that point on, you're waking up, all right? From that point on, you're no longer part of the bug's army. Now you're part of the resistance. Now you're part of the human army. Now you're part of humanity. This point is happening now extremely rapidly. And the globalists, the bug's army, are being diminished very rapidly, and thus they are being exposed. They count on being surrounded by normal humans to the point where you can't distinguish them, where you can't find them. This veil of normality is being removed from them. Their Karman is being drawn to their exposure, and those people that understand how this works can look and see the giant threads of Karman, that, you know, all these karma that are swimming down to them because of the energetic activity that's going on at the moment. And karma is so deep, we haven't even touched a small fraction of the mechanistic ways in which it's used in the universe. And we can use it individually as well. We just don't usually know how to do that. And so we're in the apocalypse. As the illusion falls away and the people wake up, the cabal and the bugs are being exposed. Now, in the perfect discourse of Hermes, there are books and fragments of books from people claiming to have been his students, okay? Very few. I mean, there's maybe 6 in all of the planet that I'm aware of. And one of those 6 is really questionable because it came out in the time of Josephus, at the time of the pious forgeries to pump up the consolidated Christianity after what's his name in 325 AD had the Constantine had the Council of Nicosia solidify Christianity as the religion for the Holy Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, right? And so Christianity was consolidated out of over 1,200 cults around this idea of Christ consciousness. And certain books were chosen, other books were left out, and so on. Again, starting off karma, and we all live in a Christian world here, underlying this ever since the Byzantine Empire, and so we all share some karma to this, and we all have energetic psychic leaks as a result of these interactions. And all this is annoying as fuck to the bug. And we're at that point now where the bug's minions, having been exposed, are going to have to become active. We're seeing it, for instance, in Australia, where they're still trying to keep up the idea that these concentration camps are quarantine, and everybody's not buying it anymore, and so they're getting active resistance, and the Bugs minions are just uncertain as to how they're going to keep going and how they're going to interact with all of this as it matures. Anyway, so this gets us to part one of the battle and what's going to be coming on out. Now, I've known for years, having been awake for years, of the global criminal gang that is masquerading as separate governments and using humanity against each other for their own purposes, and dealing with us as a herd and thinning the herd as they decide, and so on. So I've known easily since 1963 in the assassination of Kennedy that shit was not right, and I lived in basically an illusion, and people were trying to sell me a delusion on top of the illusion, and I wasn't buying it. And so I was an outcast from that point on, mentally, because I set myself aside because I could see things that others did not. Or others were unwilling to discuss. As we go forward here, we're going to find that the discussions are going to come out, and a lot of stuff that's going to be very, very, very difficult to deal with is going to emerge. When we're in the midst of that, you will know that a large number of normies are waking up as they first encounter this information. So as So there's a certain threshold of information that will take for each individual relative to their own karma and their own past history to wake up to the war that's going on. At some point, when we're getting close to that now, we will have had 80% or so of the population, at least here in the United States, but mostly globally as well, we'll have vast quantities of the population globally awake that could be easily awakened, that could be gently awakened. The 20% that's left are going to have to be slapped awake. And so in order to do that, all kinds of really nasty information is going to come on out. And we're at that point now. And this is the point that the minions, the globalists, really fear. Because as we go into that point, and as this information comes out, the normal people won't be able to unsee this. So imagine a situation, and this is hypothetical, imagine a situation where you would happen to see, you're a normie guy, and you would happen to see a video, or we can just reverse it. Let's say that Barack Obama is going to go about his business in a daily basis, or the Queen of England, or any other celebrity, Pelosi, any Hollywood person, any of these guys. And they're going about their regular business, and they're going to run into and interact with normies. Even Biden went into a store the other day. Now, Biden does not have enough mental faculties left to have these thoughts, but Obama would. What if Obama knew that there was out there and about on the internet videos circulating of him? This is hypothetical, this is just in a concept, but what if Barack Obama or Kissinger or Jamie Dimon or any of these high mucky mucks had to walk out into reality, into the normie land, knowing that there were videos circulating of them doing nasty things, right? If evidence of them doing nasty things was out and about in a general way, how are they going to feel when they go in and try and get a latte at a Starbucks and everybody's looking at them really weird? And it's not the way that they used to look at them when they were just a mucky muck figurehead kind of thing. Now they're looking at them really weird. And maybe some people are taking action, and maybe some people are calling names and this kind of stuff, see? And so they will not thereafter be able to leave their enclaves. They won't be able to go out in regular humanity. And this is a real problem for them, because they must do that, and also in order to keep their power up. And their power diminishes when every one of us knows their secrets, and then we know that, no, Barack Obama's no great shit president. He's done XYZ to all these people, and I've seen it. I know this evidence. So no, I'm not going to be in his presence. You know, I mean, it's scary enough to be around the fucker. And now that I know, ooh, yuck, you know. And so Nancy Pelosi, oh my God, the thing she did. So that's where we're at. And that's what they fear. And this is what's coming. What we have to worry about as individual humans is what they're going to do in response to the nature of where we're at right now. It's complicated, and we're going to get into it further with other videos. It might take 10, 20 hours to get into this seriously over time. But we're there now, and so this is why your world is crumbling, is because people are waking up. The powers that be are losing their power, and they are freaking out, and the only thing they have is their system. And so they had decided the system was going to crash economically anyway, and they were going to take us into this great reset. Now they are coming to understand we will not accept a great reset. In a very short period of time, that language will drop away, and they will present us with something. We will reject that, and then the war will be open and on. I suspect that the war is going to be breaking out in the open in a large way in, let's say, the end of January. Let's just say the last week in January, we should have some real indications. And this will probably be not with, and so you won't see CNN saying, oh my God, there's a war, the globalists are trying to kill humanity. You won't see that, okay? The captured media will die. It will not ever speak the truth. It will die before it will speak the truth. It cannot speak truth. So don't expect that on the last week in January, you're going to get CNN repeating anything that I'm saying here, or even discussing anything close to any of this. Rather, what you will see is the falling off, the disappearance of mainstream media, and thus those people that used to be watching it, that used to be entranced by it, that used to be under its spell, will now be able to start looking elsewhere, and they will be basically bitch slapped by what they find. In reality out there, oh my God, I didn't know this shit was going on. You know, why didn't CNN tell me? So that's kind of where we're at. Then things change very, very, very rapidly, and we get into this new area of collective karma and exploration. Anyway, these are rough. I mean, I got to stick to a script almost here to get through all of this. You know, I'm trying to boil down into a thick syrupy mass 60 plus years of accumulated information. And so it's going to be as tedious for you as it is for me. But there is a big point to this, all right? In another couple of videos, we'll be able to get at a very, very, very key element of the war between humanity and the space aliens, or the Gopal, the globalist, whatever you want to call them. There's a very key thing that will be occurring here. That is occurring now, that's coming out now, that you won't look at it in a particular way, but it is the linchpin upon which the defeat of humanity's enemies hangs. And actually it is for sure and certain that we will win because of this and because it exists. But it's a whole nother hour at least to get into that. And I've got to go get more coffee. So that's the end of the leaky woo. Bear in mind, you're leaking out constantly. And to people that know how to see, you may think that your face is hiding your emotions. You're wrong. You betray that constantly. And to those who know how to look and to really see, you know, you may think you're hiding your thoughts. Nope. Those can be seen too. Bye, guys. Be well. Be good.